Imagine for a second the ultimate heist. The thieves don't break a window. They don't pick a single lock. Actually, they just use the building's own security system to open the vault, grab what they want, and casually walk right out the front door without ever triggering an alarm. In the cybersecurity world, this exact invisible heist is happening every single day, and it's costing organizations millions. Welcome to this explainer on the PowerShell detection gap. Today, we're unpacking some truly groundbreaking research by detection engineer MITRE Rawat, and we are going to uncover exactly how attackers are operating right under our noses, and more importantly, how to finally catch them in the act.
Picture this. It's December 2025. The threat group known as Storm 0249 launches a massive, devastating ransomware operation. But when the incident responders rush in to investigate the crime scene, they find absolutely nothing. Zero. No dropped executables. No rogue files hiding on hard drives. It turns out the attackers escalated their entire operation using fileless PowerShell execution. They literally hijacked legitimate built-in Windows utilities to fetch and run their malicious scripts strictly in the system's memory. By the time the security teams realized something was off, that digital vault was already emptied. The damage was completely done, and the intruders hadn't even touched a disk.
So the crucial point is, this was definitely not an isolated freak occurrence, not even close. According to threat detection research from Red Canary, nearly half, 49% of all cyber attacks today use PowerShell somewhere in their attack chain. And that number? It surged from just 38% a few years ago. Hackers have figured out that living off the land, basically weaponizing a network's own administrative tools against it, is just incredibly effective. Section 1. The Invisible Cyber Threat. Fileless Attacks. We're looking at a total paradigm shift here. The most dangerous weapons aren't some sketchy malware files downloaded from the dark web anymore. They're the exact same administrative tools we trust every day to keep our networks running. A 2024 study showed a staggering 77% of successful attacks involved fileless malware, with PowerShell acting as the main getaway vehicle. Compare that to the shrinking 23% of traditional file-based attacks. You see, traditional antivirus software works by scanning files on a hard drive for known malicious signatures. But what on earth is it supposed to do when there's no file to scan? The antivirus just sits there, completely blind to the fact that the system memory has been totally hijacked. The financial and security implications of this blindness are terrifying. According to the data, the average dwell time for these types of invisible threats is 279 days. Just let that sink in for a second. Almost a full year of an attacker operating inside your network, casually reading your emails, mapping out your databases, and exfiltrating your deepest secrets before you even have a clue they're there.
Section 2. Why traditional defenses fail. The PowerShell problem.
Now, you might be wondering, why do our traditional defenses fail so spectacularly against this? It's endlessly frustrating for security pros, but the answer is maddeningly simple. PowerShell is entirely legitimate software. It's digitally signed by Microsoft. It's a critical tool used by sysadmins every single day to automate tasks and manage servers. You literally cannot just block it, because if you do, your entire IT infrastructure completely grinds to a halt. So because they can't block it, defenders are usually forced into one of two completely broken approaches. On one hand, you have blindness. They just ignore PowerShell logs entirely because they're too noisy, which basically leaves the front door wide open. On the other hand, you have alert fatigue. They configure the system to alert them every single time PowerShell is used. Boom! The Security Operations Center is instantly drowned in thousands of false alarms, burying the actual attacks under a mountain of totally normal IT activity. Neither approach works because neither actually understands how an attacker behaves.
Section 3. Analyzing the attack data. Real-world evidence. But here's the thing. Every invisible heist leaves a trace, provided you know exactly where to look. Detection engineer MITRE Rawat decided to play digital detective here, stepping directly into the crime scene. He knew that to catch a modern attacker, we had to stop guessing and start looking at hard evidence. So Rawat spent an entire month diving incredibly deep into the MITRE ATT&CK Evaluation's APT29 dataset. He meticulously analyzed over 196,000 individual Sysmon events from a controlled, real-world adversary simulation. We aren't talking about theoretical whiteboard stuff here. This is the exact same raw, unfiltered attack data that major security vendors use to test their million-dollar products. He was hunting for those subtle, behavioral fingerprints that separate a busy sysadmin from a covert Russian hacker.
Section 4. The Hacker's Playbook. Modern Attack Methods. Okay, let's dive into this and see exactly what he found. Rawat managed to completely decode the modus operandi of modern threat actors, basically giving us a front-row seat to the hacker's playbook. His analysis revealed a very methodical, four-step heist that attackers follow almost religiously. First up, they encode everything. They use base64 encoding to scramble their commands, which immediately breaks simple string matching security rules. Second, they leverage Office apps. A seemingly innocent Excel macro or Word document is used as a parent process to quietly launch PowerShell in the background. Third, they use Evasion Flags to hide their tracks. And fourth, they make network connections. They use built-in PowerShell commands to reach out to the internet and silently download their actual payloads.
Step 3 is particularly fascinating to me. Evasion flags like NoProfile, window hidden, NOP, and EAP bypass are absolutely not rare edge cases. Rowett found that these are standard operating procedure in every single attack he analyzed. By just typing these simple little flags, the attacker tells the system to disable logging, make the command prompt window completely invisible to the user, and totally bypass internal security execution policies. They're explicitly designed to evade detection, and frankly, they work brilliantly.
Section 5. Building a better trap. The Sigma detection rule.
But hey, knowing how the magic trick works is the very first step to ruining it. Armed with these specific behavioral patterns, Rowett set out to build a better trap, kinda like designing an invisible laser grid right across the vault floor. Instead of relying on assumptions, he built a highly sophisticated Sigma detection rule grounded entirely in the reality of how these attacks actually unfold. It doesn't just trigger because PowerShell happens to be running. No, it triggers when it spots a highly suspicious recipe. For example, it watches for encoded execution combined with those specific evasion flags. It alerts when Microsoft Word, a word processor mind you, suddenly launches PowerShell, which then attempts to make an outbound network connection. It looks for lateral movement chains, like the command prompt being spawned by a control panel executable just to launch PowerShell. It looks for context.
To really grasp the impact of this laser grid, we have to look at the baseline. Before applying a smart rule like this, your typical enterprise security team might receive a crushing 10,000 generic PowerShell executed alerts every single day. That is a mathematically impossible amount of data for humans to sift through. It's pure, unadulterated noise, effectively blinding the guards while the thieves just work in plain sight.
And this brilliantly illustrates the true power of behavioral detection. By applying a Sigma rule to that exact same network environment, filtering only for those specific malicious recipes, the noise drops from 10,000 completely useless alerts down to just 5 to 10 high-confidence alerts a day. It literally filters out the daily grind of the IT department and isolates the true anomalies. It gives security analysts a crystal-clear signal they can actually trust and take immediate action on.
Section 6. Closing the detection gap. Targeted detection.
This is exactly how we go from being passive victims to active defenders. And the absolute beauty of this solution is that it is highly accessible. The rule is available right now via GitHub and can be easily converted for major SIEM systems using the Sigma command line interface. It fundamentally changes a security team's posture from blind and overwhelmed to focused and lethal. Now, as with any enterprise solution, you should expect about a 7-day tuning period. During this first week, your team will need to document any legitimate administrative automation that might accidentally trip the alarm, say a valid IT script that happens to use encoding for credential handling, and just create known good exclusions for them. The ultimate benefits of this tuned approach are seriously transformational. You achieve earlier detection, catching the script execution long before the attacker can establish persistence. You get better context, actually seeing the full chain of events rather than staring at one isolated alert. You drastically reduce noise, saving your analysts from total burnout. And most importantly, you finally gain comprehensive fileless coverage, explicitly mapping these invisible threats directly to established MITRE attack techniques.
Look, PowerShell abuse is not going away. Microsoft isn't going to just remove it from Windows, and hackers certainly aren't going to stop using their absolute favorite invisible weapon. The source material makes one thing abundantly clear: accepting this as an undetectable threat is a choice. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final, somewhat provocative thought. The question isn't whether your organization will face a fileless PowerShell attack. It is literally inevitable. The real question is, when they finally open that digital vault, will you actually see them do it?